And this is the valve opening elbow. Has a ring lock. That sits down over the valve itself. And so this top would be threaded down in it. This would simply sit down over the top of it. And it has a gasket that seats down over the top of it. And that gasket sits down, seats on it, clamp the ring lock. And boy, you want to make sure you get this lock, because if you don't, it can come flying right up on you when you start opening the valve. Snap it into place, and now it's attached to the valve. And it's ready to, the handle then catches the top of the valve, and you crank it, and it is capturing these two ears on the top of the valve itself and turning it open or closed, depending on which way you're trying to operate it. And you have a nice lever handle here to crank with to open or to close. So very positive operation. Water sealed with gaskets, and then you hook up your hand line or wheel line right into the end of this gasket. So the pipe just slides right in here, and you're starting your lateral line heading out across the field. Now this valve is just above ground level, so that this line is only sitting less than a foot above ground if it's placed properly. And out across the field you go. Now all of these gaskets use the chevron concept also. The pipe slides in this way. On the back side, you can see that it can buckle inward. Well, the water is coming from this direction. It hits into this gasket, and it squishes that gasket down against the pipe because it catches in this chevron. That's what a chevron is a V-notch. You've all seen the chevron stations. Well, the chevron is those V's. Well, that's what they mean by a chevron gasket, a V-notch gasket. So as the water hits the back of that gasket, it opens it up. We look at that cross-section of that gasket, looks kind of like a little Pac-Man. Now the pipe then slides in like this, end of the pipe. This is captured within the gasket receptacle area. You know, the coupler is around it like this. So that orange is going to be the coupler, the green is going to be the pipe. The black is the gasket. And the blue is the water. So the water is coming down this pipeline. It tries to get up around the back side, trying to get, you know, water's always trying to find its path of least resistance, the lowest energy. So it's trying to escape around that pipe, the outside of that pipe, but it hits old Pac-Man in here and it gets trapped, and it just blows that gasket right up. It pressurizes the center of that chevron in both cases, and it forces the gasket right down against the pipe. So you get a really good tight seal. And so the water pressure creates the seal. And that gasket just gets pushed right up tight against the pipe, right in that spot, and there's no leakage. It also gets pushed right up tight against the face of the coupler, right here, and also right in here, against this face of this coupler. And it'll just get swedged right into place. And it creates a complete seal, and so you don't have any water leaking around the outer side of that gasket inside of the fitting itself. So called a chevron gasket. And virtually all gaskets are designed that way. For hand line. Every manufacturer makes them a little bit different, so that you have to buy their gasket. So depending on the manufacturer, you have to know the company to be able to buy the right gasket. This happens to be a Pierce, so you have to buy a Pierce gasket to fit a Pierce opener. And it has a certain shape of the shoulder. This outer shoulder of the gasket is what changes on the different kind of gaskets. So different manufacturers are going to have a different shaped gasket, which is going to require you to buy a specific manufacturer's gasket. It's one way to make sure that you buy their product. You can see the T part of this handle. It catches the two little arms on that. They get trapped in there, and then the thing is, you can turn it. So that's the effect of how the valve and the valve opener work. Now that's called a valve. So that makes this a valve opening elbow. Also known as a VOE. So you'll hear people talk about a VOE. Now you know what a VOE is. You just learned another piece of the language. What would be a VOT? Valve opening T. They do make them that have one of these out both sides. So we could have a valve opening T. We could have a main line right through the center of the field and sending lines off both directions. So we could have a valve opening T. So that is also something that could happen. Get my ring lock garnered up here. Losing pieces of galvanizing off of it.